Hello and welcome to my review of week 11. In this video I'm going to go over the week 11's discussion board assignment and briefly provide you some feedback on what we discussed in week 11. Hi and welcome to my review of week 11. In this video I'm going to go over the discussion board assignment for last week and provide you a brief overview of what I think about these questions that I posted on week 11's discussion board. My answers to these questions are not exhaustive. I'll just provide you my personal view, and you may disagree or agree with me. It's up to you. But when I was grading your assignments, I did not grade based on what you wrote, but I graded based on the content, not the content, but whether the answers that you provided to me were based on the assignments, the videos, the reading materials, and so on. So not just based on some other things. So this is the way that I evaluate your assignments. Hi and welcome to my review of week 11. In this video, I'm going to go over the discussion board assignment of last week and try to provide you a feedback of what I think on the week 11's discussion board assignment. Last week our subject was the culture dimension of public management, and specifically we talked about the building blocks of culture. And in the first question I asked you what these building blocks were, and the answer is simple. The building blocks of culture were ethics, values, and motives, and we talked about these things in the lecture, and you guys answered this question perfectly. You mentioned ethics, values, and motives, and provided some brief explanations, and some of you guys provided some examples as well. In the second question, I asked you guys to watch an animation by Dan Pinker, and in this video, Dan Pinker talks about what are the source of human motivation. And interestingly, he talks about money, which is a common source of motivation that everybody knows. But he also mentions other things, and the motivating force of money is not very straightforward. It motivates people under certain circumstances, it motivates people for certain tasks, but it does not motivate people for other types of tasks. It is good for motivating people who are doing mechanical jobs, but it's not good for people who are doing more cognitive jobs, who are doing more specialized jobs. So for these more specialized, more cognitively requiring tasks, you need to provide people some other things to motivate them. And these other things are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And he gives the example of Wikipedia, he gives the example of Linux, and he gives a couple other examples as well from major companies, one computer or technology company from Australia. So if you compare it, if I give you a more simple comparison, I can give you the example of, let's say, McDonald's or Subway versus an Italian restaurant in a nice neighborhood in a big city. In Subway, the task is very mechanical, right? So if someone orders a sandwich, you know how many pieces of ham you have to put, you know how many slices of cucumber you have to put in a sandwich, and the task is very mechanical, so people are easy to motivate with money in Subway. But if you're working in a nice Italian or French restaurant in a nice neighborhood, and if you're the chef of the restaurant, then your task is not mechanical. You use your personal skills and you use your craftsmanship. And in this case, money is not the most important thing for you. You would like to see your customers enjoying your meal and giving you some nice feedback, some compliments, and so on. So money is important. You would like to get monetary reward for what you do, but it's not the only thing. So beyond money, you are looking for things like autonomy, mastery, and purpose. For example, you don't want anyone to tell you how to cook a dish that you think that you are expert in, right? Same thing for mastery. It applies to cooking your most favorite dish as well. And also purpose. Your purpose is probably deliver the best Italian dish in the restaurant, or creating the best French restaurant in this neighborhood or in the city. So these are the things that might motivate you. So I hope this example of restaurants make the distinction between mechanical jobs and more cognitive or requiring complex jobs more clear. So in the second question, I ask you to question that what are the sources of motivation for human beings is presented in Dan Pinker's video, and I mentioned this to you a minute ago, and how can you use these sources of motivation in your job? This is something you can explain, you can really answer. So I'm not going to talk to you about this. But what I can tell you is that from my own perspective, being a professor is not something you would do for money. So if someone asks me whether he or she could go to graduate school or a PhD program and become a professor, and I tell them, do you want to do it for money or not? If you would like to do it for money, just don't do it, because being a professor is not financially rewarding. You could make more money if you go to private sector. But if you would like to do a PhD because you enjoy doing what you do, then go for it, because it's a very rewarding field. Teaching someone a subject that you feel enthusiastic about, or touching people's lives and help them become better employees in the future, or preparing people or students for future workforce. These are things that are very rewarding. Also, doing research in a field that you feel enthusiastic about, that you really enjoy learning more, then this is the right place for you. So being a professor is just like any other example that Dan Pinker mentioned in his video. It is a complex task, it is a cognitively demanding task, and money is not the only motivation for doing it. Of course, money is important, it motivates people, but beyond money, people are looking for some other things. You look for autonomy, you look for mastery, and you look for purpose in your job as a professor. So that's kind of my background and my take on this question. Let me move on to the final question, question number 3. And in this question, I asked you guys to analyze a case from the public administration casebook. And in this case, I gave you the University Phone Center cases and as a case study, and asked a few questions. Some of these questions were factual questions, such as the key actors, and how was the culture in the organization before Robert was appointed, and how did Robert change the culture in the phone center, and so on. So you answered these questions correctly. My comment on this third question would be this: Robert's management style, or the management style before Robert, are not good or bad. So it just depends on what kind of task you do. It just depends on what kind of an organization you are, or what kind of an organization you would like to be. But before Robert was appointed, there was already an organizational culture established within the University Phone Center. People were motivated in a certain way, and they were enjoying what they were doing, and Robert tried to change this culture, and it didn't work out well for them. It didn't work out for the employees, it didn't work out for Robert either, and there was a tension growing between Robert and other people in the organization. The point here is that if you have an organization culture that is established there, and if you are satisfied with the performance of your organization, then you have to make sure that you hire someone that will fit within your organization culture. If you bring someone from a different cultural background, and if you are not looking for a cultural change in your organization, that might create a problem. But if you're looking for a cultural change in your organization, if you're not satisfied with the culture in your organization, then bringing someone from outside can be a good thing. I can give you the example of James Leavitt in FEMA during Clinton administration. When James Leavitt was assigned to FEMA, FEMA was not in a good shape in the early 1990s. And James Leavitt, after he was appointed, he changed the culture in the organization. He personally shook hands with every single individual in the organization on his very first day, and introduced himself and said that I'm the new FEMA director, glad to meet you, and that kind of motivated people in the organization. And FEMA became a success story afterwards, after he left the organization. Another example that I can give you is that I can compare, for example, Tesla, the car company, to another car manufacturer, such as, let's say, Ford or Toyota. Tesla is a shiny company. Everybody knows Elon Musk, everybody knows how fancy he is, like his crazy ideas like SpaceX and Hyperloop and other crazy ideas. And what I can tell about Tesla is that the work culture in Tesla is very different than work culture in other car manufacturers. You don't know who is the CEO of Toyota or Ford, but we know who is the chief of Tesla. And the major difference between Tesla and Toyota or Ford is that in Tesla there's a significant level of micromanagement done by Elon Musk. So Elon Musk is a micromanager, not even a micro, he's a nano manager. So he would like to control every single aspect, every little detail of even the production phase of these Tesla cars. That wouldn't be the same case in other car manufacturers. So is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? I don't know. I can't tell you, but you can see the difference between one car manufacturing company, Tesla, and another car manufacturing company, Toyota or Ford or something else. So there's no one way of conducting an organization. There is no one way of creating a culture in an organization. But if you create a culture, you have to make sure that the cultural environment and management practices fit each other. Otherwise, if you blend multiple cultures together in one organization, then you will end up having some problems. And that happened with the creation of DHS, which I mentioned in one of my lectures. In the DHS case, 22 different separate federal agencies were swept under a mega department in the federal government, and every single organization had their own culture. They had their own way of doing things, and they were scattered across Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia, and they didn't have a coherent way of operating, and early years of DHS was painful for these organizations. Anyway, so that's pretty much it for week 11. So these are my feedback and my personal experiences with regard to motivation in my job. So I hope you will enjoy this review, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions, and enjoy rest of your week.